Mesechus Shabbos Daf Kuf Mem Gimel. The Mishnah says, Beis Shammai holds, Mavir mi al shulchan at somus uklipin, and Beis Hillel holds, Masalik is a tavlo, kulo umenaro. The Rishonim ask a tremendous kasha on this Mishnah. Why is it mutter to take the tavlo off the shulchan? How much, according to Beis Hillel, the atzamas and the klipin are muktzah, so the tavla should be a basis l'dava asa. Most Rishonim understand that even though it was put there in middle of Shabbos, it still could become a basis be'emtza Shabbos for as long as the muktzah is on the tavla, it should be considered a basis. However, the Baal HaMaor says that no, there's no basis in middle of Shabbos. To Tosis and Beya asked this kasha on that base, and he says three terutzim. One teretz is according to Shitas Rebbeinu Tam, that's brought in Shabbos Daf Nun Aleph, that a basis is only when you meniach something on the shulchan and you have in mind that should be there the entire Shabbos. Another teretz Tosis says that since there's dichol there besides the atzamas and klipin, it's not considered a basis, only the davar aser. And in the third teretz Tosis says is that since you don't care, you're not makri heichon yipoilu, therefore it's not considered meniach, it's considered shechech. Moving further on, the Mishnah says that a sfoig, a sponge, if it has a beis achiza, you're allowed to be mekanech or Shabbos, and if it doesn't have beis achiza, you cannot. Ben kach or ben kach nitellen b'Shabbos. The Sfas Emes adds an interesting kasha. Why is it ben kach or ben kach nitellen b'Shabbos? Since it's made to squeeze, it should be considered a kli shemlachtel isen, should be also because of muktzah. So he says that it has a shtamshus of heter when it's dry, and therefore it's not considered a klishim lachtel iser. However, the Pri Megadim says the whole heter in the Mishnah is only until David asked. It's not mashma like that in the Mishnah. In the Iker Havana in the Mishnah, that if it doesn't have a beis achiza, ein mekanchem boy. Rashi and the Rambam is mashma that's for sure going to be soichet, and it's mashma in the Gemara. The Gemara says it's a psik reisha. The Magen Avraham is a kasha on the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch that say that this is a gzeira. But Tzarichin, the Gemara says clearly that it's a psik reisha. And the Tosis Shabbos writes that the answer to this question is even something that's not for sure going to happen, just karv levade, that's going to yovili de iser, also is considered a psik reisha. So therefore, gzeira and a psik reisha is not a contradiction. They're both emes. Then he asked on the Levush says that's for sure going to be soichet like Rashi and the Rambam, and nevertheless he says that it's a gzeira. The Tosis Shabbos says that there's two types of svoigs. There's a dry one and a wet svoig, and a dry sponge is not a psik reisha, but nevertheless it's also because of loy plug, and that the Shulchan Aruch explained that the reason why it's also is because of a gzeira. The Bialacha asks, it's not mashma like that. In Rashi, it's mashma. Rashi's mashma that if it's dry, it's mutter. Ein El Yerabah that says the teretz similar to the Tosis Shabbos, that only by a lach it's a psik reisha and not by a yovish. Moving further on, the Mishnah says you can't be seichet peiros, and Rashi says because it's mefarik, which is a tolda of dosh. In the Sefer Tzvi, he brings a kasha that why is Sechita a tolda of dosh? Why isn't a tolda of boirer that you're taking out the juice from the pri? It should be considered a tolda of boirer as well. So he brings from the Sefer Pri Eitz Chaim that explains that it's choluk, boirer, and dosh b'yisoidam. Mlachas dosh is originally one item. You have a kernel of wheat, and with the malacha of dosh, you're taking out the wheat and you're making from one item into two. However, boirer was originally two independent items, and you're just separating one from the other, and it's not considered the mesakana oichel, but it's achana for oichel. So therefore, Sechita, since it comes from you're taking out from one fruit, which is one item, therefore it's doime l'dosh, and it's not similar to boyer b'chlal. Ayin had tzvi that he asked on this pshat v'ayin sham. Moving further, the Gemara says that if it's nispazul or peiros b'chatzor, if peiros got spilled out in the chatzor, you could bring al yad one at a time, but you can't bring in a kli. Shlo yasik derech shu oiseh b'chol. The Rambam in Shuvas says that it's also because of the dichol and exeva that you might calmly de meleches ma'amer. So it's sarchit that the Rambam is saying two things. First of all, is of the dichol and meleches ma'amer. The Tferes Yisrael in his Akdama to Mesechus Shabbos Kilkelas HaShabbos has a shtickle where he explains the Isra Uvdah dichol, and he says a very yesodistic point. He says Uvdah dichol you find in many situations, and he says there are three different categories in Uvdah dichol. One halacha Uvdah dichol is, it's similar to the Gemara of Kuf Lamed Ches, to put mashke into a beged, which is similar to mishamer, and an action which is similar to malacha and might commonly de malacha. There is one type of uvdah dichol. Another type of uvdah dichol is like we have in our Gemara, which what you're doing is not similar to a malacha b'chlal. If you're going to gather the peiros into a sal, you might end up coming lidei malacha. It's not similar to a malacha, but the action could end up resulting in a malacha. And then there's a third category of uvdah dichol, which is the Gemara in the beginning of Mefanin, the Kuf Chav Zayin, Kuf Chav Ches. Something that's a tirchi Yisrael is also because uvdah dichol. That's a third category of uvdah dichol v'ayin sham.